Hi, I'm Georgia Meek.
And I'm Lizzie Pacey, and we're bringing to you episode 2 of the Friar podcast.
For our second episode, we are introducing a new series where we interview some of St. Anthony's faculty and staff, aiming to familiarize more students in the building with our wonderful teachers, and also allowing us to get a more in-depth view of who they are.
The 2 faculty members in this episode are our academic dean, Mr. Washington,
and our school chaplain, Father Mike. We hope you enjoy our episode and stay tuned for more. Hello, Mr. Washington.
Hello, Georgia.
How many years have you been teaching at St. Anthony's?
This is my 16th year.
And what subjects do you teach?
I currently teach AP microeconomics. I've also taught some macro, some U.S. history, and way back in the day, I taught a computer class.
What thing or story do you wish the student body at St. Anthony's knew about you?
My sophomore year, I was kind of like the 9th string quarterback on the varsity football team. And I was the only sophomore on varsity. I got moved up because guys kept getting hurt. And I was really kind of like a tackling dummy. I was on the scout team. And it was one practice. It was like freezing cold out. I was kind of standing around for like an hour. And there's one coach who's like an absolute maniac. And he called me over to like run a drill with the starting offense or whatever. And my hands were freezing cold. And I kept fumbling the snap like again and again and again. You could just see this guy, like he was like the guy from Inside Out, like his head just exploded and he started screaming at me. And I was so shook. I was like, okay, I think I need to retire from football. And I just kind of like stood there on the sideline and was like, okay, I like want to dig a hole in the ground and just like hang out for a while. And I felt this arm around me, and it was Mr. Zanny, who was a senior at the time, and he was like,
Oh my God.
Welcome to the club, man. He's like, we've all gotten chewed out by Coach Gallagher. And I always remember like Mr. Zanny was like such a good senior and such a good guy to like pick me up when I was like, having a really rough day.
What is the most helpful life lesson that you have learned, and how do you apply it to how you go about teaching?
Wow, life lesson. I guess it would just be, to kind of have a growth mindset and always think that, you can get better and never kind of be satisfied with things, but also never get too discouraged. And another one that Mrs. Kennedy says a lot that I think is a great mantra is read a book. I think that's a really important kind of like motto to live by, that you can learn a lot and it's good for your soul to always be reading. So that's another one.
Very nice. What is one thing that you hope your students take away from their experience at St. Anthony's?
I don't think my students in particular. I just hope all students at St. Anthony's. I think the brothers do a great job of kind of planting these little seeds in all of us that make you always kind of like want to do the right thing. And I think I was a complete knucklehead when I was a student here, but it's like those seeds kind of grew and grew and grew. And, I don't know, I always feel like the impact that the brothers had on me as a young person was something that like really just kind of like infused into me for the rest of my life. So I think, the teachers do a great job of that here, the coaches, and it all kind of comes from the Franciscan brothers of just helping our people, our kids to want to grow up to be good people.
Very nice. What is the most comical thing to happen to you while teaching?
Okay, I got one. So I think this was spring of 2009, and the class of 2009 is like one of my favorite classes of all time. Mr. Long is from that class. And their senior prank was to all drive their cars up to the parking lot of the library and like the school for the gifted up the block there and all take alternate forms of transportation to school. Really so like skateboards, soapbox cars, tricycles, they all like, so the parking, and they all parked these like scooters and stuff like in the St. Anthony's parking spaces. And it was our old deans, Mr. Winus and Mrs. Becker, were like going crazy. And I taught a first period class, And it was also like, I think it was the last dress down day or something like that. And this one girl, I forget what the heck her name is, but she came into my class late, and I was like, why are you coming in late? And she's like, I fell over the speed bump on my scooter. And I was like, oh. She was all like ripped up and stuff like that. But that was the best senior prank I've ever experienced.
That is really good.
How did you get into teaching?
I think like a lot of us alumni teachers, like, it wasn't something I was thinking about in high school, but I actually did like a Big Brother, like the Big Brother, Big Sister program. Mm-hmm. I did that in college, and our lacrosse team did it. And I had like this really great experience with this kid, Kyle Minton, who was a fourth grader at the time. And I really loved it. And he kind of like talked me out. I was going to like, I thought I was going to go like work on Wall Street or something. And he kind of like talked me out of it. We had like a great experience, and I always loved sports, and I thought like, okay, maybe I could teach and coach. And yeah, so that was like the first time I really thought about it. And then I started doing like teaching at summer schools and stuff like that, and just kind of stumbled into it.
Very nice. Who is your best friend in the building?
Can I have like two?
Yeah,
I think I can have a tie. So I would say Mr. Menzer. So we played football together, and we weren't super tight in high school, but I probably hang out with him the most. He's my real estate agent. We coached a lot together, so I love Mr. Menzer. And I'd say for sure my oldest and probably my most beloved friend is Miss Malangone. We were carpool buddies starting our freshman year here. Did 4 years. Poor Miss Malangone. We did 4 years of high school together and 4 years of college together. So she was stuck with me for an 8-year stretch. And she's just like the sweetest person in the world. So.
That's great. I never knew that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That is
Thank you.
Awesome, guys.
Hello, Father Mike.
Hi, how you doing?
How many years have you been at St. Anthony's?
I've been at St. Anthony's since last August. Yeah, August of 2020. End of August 2020.
Very nice. What is one thing or story that you wish the student body at St. Anthony's knew about you?
Ooh, there's a lot of things. I'm trying to think. I don't know. I think I said it when I introduced myself here last year, my first parish assignment when I started there. It was just a month after a pretty horrific and traumatic event. It was when a guy came into our church just before I got there, and he set our church on fire, and then he tragically took his life in that building. And I got to be somebody who walked in a parish, my first parish assignment, as like in the midst of all this chaos, in the midst of something pretty traumatic, and like becoming a part of that community. And then through the rebuilding of the church, also kind of experiencing a little bit of like the spiritual rebuilding and the spiritual connections with all these people. And this group of people who started out as like a room of strangers, became for me like a really special part of my life. And I think it was for me a really beautiful realization of what a priest is and how a priest ought to be able to connect with people on a deeper level and spiritually build people up. There's never a boring moment being a priest. There's always something fun going on. That's it.
Very nice. What's the most helpful life lesson that you have learned, and how do you apply it to what you do?
A lot of important life lessons. I'm trying to think. I don't know. Just one? That's hard. I don't know.
Your top one.
Top one. I think realizing that faith is something more than just like another activity. Like you guys have so many things you have to do all the time. It's always like, I think your parents should win like a medal for all the stuff they drive you to and just going around. It's like every day there's like something going on. It's insane. So I think a lot of times we think about faith and it's just like another one of the things. Like, it's like football, gymnastics, cheerleading, kick line, baseball, soccer, whatever. It's like all these things and academics and college applications, all this stuff. And then we think like faith is like one more thing that we're told we have to carry. And it's like we have our hands full with all these other things. How can I take one more thing? And faith, more than just being kind of one more thing to carry among all the other things we have, it's like faith ought to be like the table on which like everything else is placed. Not like something that competes for everything else, but something on which we have support and like a foundation for everything else. I think that's like I would hope maybe in some way, shape, and form to get that kind of idea of faith across, through being here.
What is one thing that you hope the students take away from their experience at St. Anthony's?
One thing I would hope for the students at St. Anthony's to take away from their time here would be, definitely, of course, it'd be like a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, to really take their faith on a more adult and personal level. And I think also, on a simpler, maybe starting point from that or for that would be even to like ask the bigger questions in life. And I think there's one thing that is a big difficulty for many young people today. It's like there's the temptation just to kind of like want to numbly go through life and just like either stare behind a screen or just kind of, whatever, get into a whole bunch of knucklehead business or whatever else. But we can kind of like forget to ask the bigger questions, or to like afraid to like really go to like the depths of what's really in our hearts and who we are, and ask the big questions, important questions. I do firmly believe that always leads ultimately to Christ when we ask those bigger questions and we try to get to what's going on at the bottom of our hearts. But definitely, if there's one thing, it would be a personal relationship with Christ, because really, if a Catholic school is ultimately not about Jesus Christ, it's a failure from the get-go, and always a call and a challenge to do better, making that the priority and the center of gravity around which everything else revolves.
Very nice. What is the most comical thing to happen to you during Mass?
Like today, or like in general? I don't
In
know.
general,
There's
like
always something.
Ever?
Oh my gosh, there's like so many crazy things. Well, one time at my old parish, there was a guy who was definitely like struggling with drugs and stuff like that, which was terrible and was sad and everything. But he came to Mass one day, and sometimes he wasn't so nice, and that's putting it nicely. He wasn't so nice, but he was feeling particularly pretty good one day. And he came in and he was with his pit bull, and he brought his like pit bull mix into church. And I'm sitting there, I'm in my investments and stuff, and I'm sitting there up at the presider's chair, like the readings are going on. So some sweet old lady is like doing one of the readings, and I'm sitting there, and like I hear this like scratching thing like on wood, like it's like, I was like, what the heck is that? And like I turn and I look, and it's this guy who's on drugs with his like pit bull mix in the back of the church, and the dog is sitting next to him in the pew. And he's like talking to the dog, like making like puppy sounds, like, who's a good boy, this is that. And he's like doing this to the dog during Mass. And like I had to like stare at him for like a couple of seconds because I wasn't sure if it was like actually happening or if it was like a weird like thing going on in my mind. So like as that's going on, I in my full vestments, I walk to the back of the church like, dude, you got to get out of here. You're kidding me? He's like, what, man, what? I was like, no, you have to leave now, go. And like one of the other big guys from the parish he came to, and he's like backing me up, like my backup. And like I kicked him out, and then like he was, that was pretty cool. It was the only time I think I kicked somebody out of Mass. But there was also like little kids around. So it was like a pit bull, a guy on drugs, and little kids and old ladies. It was a recipe for disaster. I had to take action. And then the coolest thing was though, like I timed it perfectly, like God timed it perfectly. So right after I kicked him out, I was done. And then it was time for the gospel, and I just like walked up down the main aisle like it was all planned, and then like read the gospel and went on with Mass like normal. So keep going forward. So anyway, nice. That comes to mind as far as crazy stories go. But I got a lot of crazy stories.
Very nice.
That's it.
How did you get into priesthood?
How did I get into priesthood? I think I thought about it for the first time I was like a kid, like 6 or 7-ish or so, like around the time I first took communion. I remember I thought the thought was there. It was there to like some degree. And then, like, when the scandal stuff started kind of coming out of the news, like around 2002, I think it was around the time I was making my confirmation. And I remember feeling very upset about the church, and like feeling really upset with, just like disappointed, I guess, on like a really deep level. And I remember saying out loud before I got confirmed, I'll never ever be a diocesan priest. And I went to high school. I went to Kellenberg High School, the other Catholic school. And I loved my time at Kellenberg. The Marianist brothers and priests were very good to me, and through being there, my faith definitely went to a more deeper and personal level. That was when I started thinking about faith, I think, on a more deep level, and also about like the reality of like, hey, maybe God is calling me to be a priest. And I went to college. I tried to run away from the whole idea as much as I could because it scared me. And then senior year of college, that was when a priest that I knew from Kellenberg, an older, happy, joyful priest, he got sick and he passed away. And through going to his wake and his funeral and seeing really, I think, the beauty of the priesthood in a deeper way, that really kind of jump-started, my discernment back. And throughout senior year of college, that was when I really started discerning hard and serious again. And a few months after my senior year of college, that was when I went into the seminary. And 5.5 years in the seminary, ups and downs and all arounds during that time. And by the grace of God, I was ordained a priest June 24th, 2017. So, that's my story in a nutshell. So what got me into the priesthood? That's it.
Very nice. And who is your best friend in the building?
That's such a dangerous question. I'm going to pick a safe answer, but it's a good answer. I'm going to say Ralph Silvestri, even though he's not physically here with us, but definitely I think that. In one sense, like, you see, that was a good one.
Yeah, that's a very great answer.
But Ralph Silvestri is a very special young man, and it was really awesome to be his priest with his family during a very difficult and sad time. And yeah, I don't think I'll ever be able to forget him, you know, and there's a lot of people you deal with who are in difficult situations and circumstances, but yeah, a very special young man and a very great privilege of mine to be able to be his priest in those last days and weeks and months and everything, really up until the end, and then finally, yeah, even going all the way to the cemetery with his family, you know, very special thing, a very heavy thing, but yeah, really awesome young man, and it's awesome to be able to say he was a great young man, not just because it sounds nice and something really horrible happened, but because he was a really great young man.
Absolutely.
And,
That's my favorite answer so far.
I think Ralph was probably like, he's probably one of the only people that like you can truly say he was a friend to all and like fully mean it.
Totally.
Like he really was such a great.
There was one time, I'm in my office now, so if you're not watching this, obviously, because you're listening to a recording.
You're listening.
I'm talking to these people here because they know where I am. But I'm in my office right now. One time I was standing by my office, and Ralph was, I think, right outside my office, and it was like when the Angelus came on, so you're supposed to stay quiet and stay still. You hear that, all you people in the cafeteria? So you're supposed to be quiet, you're supposed to be still. And I was like rushing around doing some stupid thing, like which wasn't important at all. And I was like, I have to get there before the class gets out and beat everybody out. And I'm running through the hallway, and like I'm walking during the Angelus, and Ralph just like is standing there like quietly praying, being still, and he's like sees me, and I see him. I was like, oh crap. And like I went to him afterwards. I apologized. I was like, you know what? Listen, I'm sorry you saw me do that. You were totally doing the right thing, and you totally shamed me. And yeah, he played it off really cool. But anyway, so Ralph was truly gracious in both life and in death, and showing me up all along. So, yeah, great guy. Great guy.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so
we
much.
really
This was
appreciate
wonderful.
it.
Thank you guys.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
guys.
you
God
so
bless
much.
you.